Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hearing News. Kia ora, Emily. Welcome in.
Thank you. I am Chewy today. Oh, I should have changed my name to something Chewy related. Oh well.
Because you can't be Pink
Ems.
Pat. What would you be? Just
No.
Ems? I
don't know what I had for Pink Chewy. I think I had something, but it's all right.
Chewy has had a busy old time. So Chewy is having a bit of a break tonight. I'm assuming we'll see him back tomorrow night, which is great, but it's lovely to have you on, Ems. It's always nice to have a real mature person on with me and not that other guy who doesn't understand. Speaking of mature, do you want to see the best t-shirt ever? I'll show you the best t-shirt ever. Here we go, watching. You got it?
Well, that's cool. Where did that come from?
It's the 4-pack men, ghosts. One of them is dead and in a coffin, and the coffin is the Ghostbusters trap. Isn't that the best t-shirt ever in the whole wide world? It's pretty cool. It's almost as good as our own merch. See, if I was a better kind of broadcaster, I'd do a cheesy link now and show merch and say, go and buy it. But you guys know all that stuff. Hey, bunch of stuff going on tonight. There's a bunch of kind of little bits and pieces I've added in as well, which aren't necessarily officially sort of a part of the run sheet, if you will. We're going to cover off the RMA changes a couple of times tonight. We're going to speak to Dunedin MP and the Labour Party spokesperson for the RMA, Rachel Brooking, next. And then after we talk to Rachel, we'll probably actually have a look at the One News story. And then later on tonight, we'll have a look at the poll results from tonight from the One News Verian poll, which is about the leaders and who wants the leaders. And there's a bunch of other things as well. Apparently, Ruth Richardson and Nicola Willis are going to get in the octagon and like have a fight or something like that. I'm not sure of the full details yet, but we'll have a squiz at that. My money's on Ruth Richardson, by the way, if that does happen. And there's this thing going around at the moment, and actually we're not really going to talk about this because I've done a bit of research. Have you heard the hubbub around Muma, the Manukau Urban Māori Authority?
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
There's some hubbub going on at the moment, like bad things and bullying and yada, yada, yada. And of course, what's happened is the right-wing trollosphere has jumped onto it, making everything 100% legit and it's all 100% true. And I mean, if it's a story, it's a story. You know, like Darling Tunnel is a story. But I've done a bit of research today, and as is normally the case, the hype around the right-wing trollosphere as to why the mainstream media is not talking about this, there's a very good reason why the mainstream media is not talking about this. And I'll explain that. We're not really featuring it as a story because there's not really anything to talk about. And that's a part of the reason the mainstream media is not talking about it. But because there are some people online waiting for a response to that, I said I'd have a look at it. We will have a little ad break. It'll be like a little break between two stories where we will talk about that. And some other bits and bobs as well along the way. But what we'll do, Ems, is because the House is sitting literally as we speak, and Rachel Brooking's been very good to give us some time to have a chat about the RMA and what's been announced today. So we'll go straight to Rachel, and then we'll jump on with the rest of the show after we let her get back to metaphorically beating over the head the government with a big stick, metaphorically speaking, of course. So let's welcome to the show Rachel Brooking. Rachel, good evening to you.
Kia ora, lovely to be upstairs. I'm on the 3rd floor. I've come up from the 1st floor. Which
nice. Long time no see. Is that right? People don't know what that joke is. Thank you for coming on Friday night. It was lovely to see you at the I guess technically it was sort of the New Zealand Nurses Organisation event that we sort of co-hosted, I guess. Before we get into this, any takeaways from the event on Friday night? Hearing Gary Payenda speak, hearing Craig speak. What was your takeaways from it being you came along as sort of just a viewer, although we did pull you up at one stage.
I did.
Yeah, what were your thoughts?
It was just such an engaged audience. That's what I came away with, and people are really wanting to talk about elections, even though we're still in 2025. So real mood for change, certainly in our part of the world.
What's the feeling like around the Labour caucus at the moment with those poll results yesterday? Now, we know we don't read too much into the polls until the big day, but the closer you get to the election, the more relevance they have. Last night we said that Labour's doing their job. I mean, like for Labour, it seems like that was right about where it was. And if you were to take last night as a part of the trend rather than an outlier, and we won't know until the next poll which one of those it is, the sort of minor parties on the left weren't pulling their weight. What was the Labour feeling about it?
Look, long way to the election. We're working really hard. We do, of course, want to get our numbers up, and we don't want this coalition government to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, of course, those poll results which show a right-wing government always not what we want to see, but we've just got to work really hard and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and for the whole last 2 years, Chewie and I have been, we don't really care about seats in the House yet. That really gets decided on election day. But it's inarguable that you watch the trends and that the closer you get to the election, the more valuable polls can be. And I guess the last one going into the holiday break is sort of the first one that I think people can start to look at to see where we are all at. Also quite interesting, I know this is not what we said we were going to talk about, but quite interesting to see Chippy be quite aggressive, not in a bad way, but today about we want those Māori seats. I mean, it sounds like basically what he's saying is in an ideal world for Labour, there would be no Te Pāti Māori. Would that be fair to say?
Well, we certainly want to win the seats, and we've got an awesome Māori caucus and we'll have great candidates as well. So we've got of course, we're backing them.
Let's have a look. We won't do the whole story because you are a little bit limited on time. We don't want to hold you up for too long. But what we will do is the Prime Minister about an hour, well, not the Prime Minister, one of his 7 underling people who run his social medias have put something up on his Twitter feed or X feed, however people want to reference it. And I thought that gives kind of a 45-second synopsis of what National says they've done with the RMA today. So let's have a listen to this and then we'd love to get your thoughts.
For 30 years, the Resource Management Act has been a handbrake on growth and opportunity. Today we're unveiling the next major step in our economic plan to build our future, replacing the broken RMA with a new pro-growth planning system. The reforms that we're announcing today are a once-in-a-generation opportunity to finally unburden ourselves from the millstone weighing down our economy. We are proposing a more permissive, consistent and predictable system that unlocks investment, reduces delays and gives businesses confidence to plan and to grow. There will be less talking and filling in forms and more building and more growing. Less no and a lot more yes. For 30 years.
And I guess a lot of people would say, me included, that on the surface level, that sounds great. The devil is always in the detail. When, for example, you read slashing red and green tape, and by green tape, I'm assuming he's saying all that environmental stuff that they force us to look after. But then we also do hear stories about people taking months to get permission to, you know, cut a tree or to move a tree within their system. So where are we at today with the RMA? I know that Chippy said on the news tonight that Labour was going to take some time to sort of dig a bit deeper into it before you come up with a final statement. But what are the initial thoughts around what's been done?
Well, 2 initial thoughts on what the Prime Minister was just saying there. One is, of course, it's not a once-in-a-generation time to overhaul the RMA, because we did it when we were in government. We had a huge piece of work with the Spatial Planning Act and a Natural and Built Environments Act that this government then repealed 2 years ago, almost to the day. So, and they brought back the RMA with that repeal. So that's wrong. And he keeps saying this, and, you know, perhaps he wasn't around the House very much in 2023, but that's annoying. And secondly, in his statement then, he didn't mention the environment at all. There was nothing about improving the environment. So in all of Labour's, all of our reforms that we did last term, they were based on 2 things. One was improving the environment, and the other was improving efficiencies, because the RMA is really has a whole lot of inefficiencies. It's grown up and been amended and had all this case law come into it over time. So it is difficult, and it does need to change, and which is why we repealed it. And so now the national government has said, announced today what it's been signalling for a long time, and that is that they'll separate out our integrated resource management system and to have one that's a planning act and one that's more of a environmental act. So the type of things that regional councils do, air and water, those sorts of things, biodiversity, that'll be in the Environment Act, and things that like city councils do, so land use controls and urban planning, that'll be in the Planning Act. But they've also said a whole lot of other things that we did in our reforms as well. So they're talking about the importance of spatial planning, we did that, having one big sort of planning document at the regional scale, we did that as well. Having clear environmental bottom lines, we were doing that as well. So there's a big range of issues that are very similar. Where the differences are is they've got a very big focus on the enjoyment of private property rights, and you'll hear all of them talk about this, and the regulatory takings aspect of the bill we're very concerned about, and haven't got into the detail yet about exactly the wording in the bills, but we are interested in hearing submissions on this issue. So, because the issue is, if a council puts some sort of environmental protection on your land, and there's a threshold there, I think it's something like significant. If they do that, then the private property owner can require some sort of compensation from the council for that. And that's what we're talking about, regulatory takings. And that could, of course, mean like councils don't like, ratepayers don't like councils spending more money to have environmental protections. So probably that could result in there being just a real reduction in environmental protections. That's the concern.
You also mentioned there, when I said devil in the detail, the role that regional councils play whilst this government is trying to get rid of regional councils. So that's obviously going to have to look at a new aspect as to how all those checks and balances line up. Yeah, and look, that document on the regional councils, it's very brief and doesn't make a huge lot of sense, because it is saying that regional councils are still there. It's just the regional councillors aren't there, and that maybe the mayors do the role of the regional councillors. So it's quite, it seemed very undeveloped, that paper, when it came out a couple of weeks ago. And however, we do know that a lot in the government, many people in the government do not like the job that regional councils have been doing when regional councils have been implementing the water protections that Labor put in place. And so we saw the Otago Regional Council, the day before they were going to notify their plan, that would have provided for these different plan settings to stop rivers being polluted, and the whole idea being that they'd be swimmable again at some point. This government stopped that council doing it the day before. So there's this real record of not wanting regional councils to do their job of protecting our environment and in fact improving the environment as well. So that's all piece of the puzzle. And why I'm running around in the house at the moment is because, in addition to the two bills that were well signalled, we've been talking about them for a long time, was all well signalled, of course, devil's in the detail, but they've also put in an all stages urgency bill, which is giving resource consents that would expire before the 31st of December 2027, an extension to the 31st of December 2027. And there's just no analysis with this. There's no regulatory impact statement. The departmental discussion documents that are just totally light, and it's all stages urgency. So we don't know how many consents we're talking about and what the impacts will be of those consents getting an extension. It might be that most of them will be totally benign and it won't really matter
if they're extended for another 2 years. But it might be that it's for a resource that is contested, how much pollution is going into a river, for instance. I mean, if you keep that going for another 2 years, that there will be real consequences. But I'm totally talking in the hypothetical because there's just been no analysis provided.
Yeah. Emily, you got any thoughts you want to jump in with?
Well, I was thinking about how this, the Regulatory Standards Act now, no longer the RSB, but the RSA, will have an effect on this, but it sounds to me like it's already having an effect with this whole, property rights, because I know that the being paid out by councils for land use or land changes or whatever, that was part of one of the things that people were concerned about with the, one of the things that Seymour wanted because through the Regulatory Standards Act. So, any thoughts on how much this is starting to impact that already, or the RMA changes?
Yeah, they go hand in hand, right? So this real focus on private property rights, that's something that's been in the Act manifesto and whenever they've talked about the RMA for a long time. So yes, that is consistent libertarian thinking. And ironically though, the bill that's going through under all stages urgency at the moment, that of course doesn't meet any of those tests. In terms of the good legislation making.
Yes, and that's one that Tanya Waikato, I think we've talked to her a few times. She's pointed that out many times, is that like this under urgency stuff has never had good policy making as part of it, because they just sort of regulatory impact statements. Nah, we don't need those. So it's not going to take very long until the Regulatory Standards Act is not really.
Yeah,
doing
and it's such a terrible way to make law all stages urgency. Sorry, I know I'm deviating away from the RMA here a bit, but they what it means is we're sitting in Parliament and often we don't see the bill, and today we saw it an hour earlier, but we didn't see the departmental disclosure documents or anything else until the minister stands up and starts speaking about it, and then you literally run to the table in the House, get the document, sit there, and as soon as he sits down, I stand up and start talking about the thing. And then you go through the second reading, and then you go through the committee of the whole stage where you get to ask the minister questions. Meanwhile, the government members are trying to shut down the questions all of the time. And then you go to a third reading, and then the bill's done. And so if you went to a select committee, I could be on the select committee and I could ask officials quite technical, detailed questions about the wording of the bill. And of course, people can submit on it as well. And whilst some submissions are all in opposition or all in favour of something, many submissions are really helpful. Just, if this is what you wanted to do policy-wise, you would achieve it better if you did A, B, and C, and it makes much, much better law.
Yeah.
Just to take a half step back, there was a time today where there was, in the House, where there was an undisclosed bill. Is that what you're talking about? You don't know what... So I just want to unpack this, because this sounds like the antithesis of democracy. That the government has prepared a bill, it's undisclosed, the opposition literally doesn't know what it's going to be. Did you just say until an hour before then, or as the minister was standing up? And then you have to respond to it in the House immediately. I mean, not just because I typically would lean towards where the opposition parties would be right now, but that just seems to be an incredibly bully pulpit, undemocratic way to pass anything.
Yeah. But it's a terrible way to do things. And what it really annoys me about it is that this government will go, oh, well, other governments have used urgency too. But how many bills have been through all stages urgency by other governments and not on notice?
Well, and for what? What are they putting them? I mean, the Christchurch earthquake happens or COVID happens, there's a reason for urgency.
That's right. Yeah, and there is an actual, I should have added, is there an actual emergency? Or is there something, we had some space legislation that went through all stages urgency, which we were okay with, but we because of national security issues, but we wanted a post-enactment review clause so that people, when they've got more time, the bill needed to be passed quickly for a good, proper reason, but then people have some time to go over it and see if it needs to be amended at all, or if something else should happen with it.
So are we sitting here this evening, still really not knowing what the sum total of these RMA changes are, because it needs to be dug into and we need to figure it out? Like, do you look at it and go, I see the good things they've done here, this is all bad? How's your reaction to that?
Yeah, so there are lots of things that have really come across from our legislation in terms of better compliance, monitoring and enforcement. Those things are good. We are both, our reforms and their reforms are trying to change the GDP in the system away from consent by consent up into the plans and the national policy direction. Those things are good, but the concerns here are about that regulatory taking, the role of mana whenua, and I haven't gone through all of that yet, but it's likely to be very reduced. We had in our reforms that mana whenua would be at the table, not just being consulted with, but at the table, and this will be much diminished. And this government talks about treaty settlements all the time, but we've got that whole bit of the north where there are no settlements and places, or they're not settled, and we've got other places around the country, so we have to think beyond that. I'm not sure how strong that will be. I think it will be weaker. No interest in looking at climate mitigation, reducing climate pollution. I don't think there will be much or anything on green spaces. So if you're intensifying places like Auckland, which is a good thing to do, but if you're letting people do everything that they can on their private property, there are going to be impacts on our stormwater, and there is a need for green areas, and climate change, the place is heading up, and there's more storms and weather events, and people need recreational spaces as well if they're living in denser environments. So who is it that's going to provide for those green spaces when councils are having rate caps put on them? What are the financial mechanisms going to be? So those are the things that I'm particularly interested in, as well as the role of community participation in the process and how often they'll get knocked out in the way that they've been knocked out of the fast track.
Rachel, thank you for joining us tonight. Before we go, Ems, do you have any other questions or comments to wrap up with?
No. I think you've got a very important job to go and do, so we won't keep you for too much longer, but
not like us.
Yeah, not like us.
Not like us. Hey, Rachel, is this your last week in the house? Are you back home to Dunedin next week as well?
Yeah, next week. Hopefully we'll end on the Wednesday night next week.
Okay, and then back to Dunedin for summer?
Definitely Christmas and New Year's.
Yep, excellent. We'll see you at the Octagon.
Excellent. Lovely.
All right, thanks for your time, Rachel. All the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, any reflections? I mean, it does feel a bit like I say this a lot and I apologize, but it's often true that the devil is in the detail and we need to know more about it before final comments. But yeah, that idea about the bill going to the floor today, the undisclosed bill, I don't even know how that's possible. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, and just to be really fair, if Labour or someone else was doing it, I'd say the same thing. You can't, a well-functioning opposition is essential in a democracy, and you cannot allow the opposition to function if you're not giving them the information to be functioning. So therefore, it's undemocratic. It's a poor functioning democracy doing it that way. I'm really dumbfounded by that, actually. It shook me when I saw those words, undisclosed bill, or whatever the technical term was. Yeah. No, any thoughts or reflections on that conversation, Ems?
Well, I've very shallowly followed the RMA changes because it's like you say, devil's in the detail, and there hasn't been a lot of detail other than we want to change things for businesses and make it easier to run a business and screw over the environment, property rights, yada yada yada. But I think Rachel makes some really good points around green spaces and who's going to push for those sorts of things and who's going to who is going to look after the environment, because we know that it's not profitable to look after the environment, let's be honest. Yeah, so those things scare me. And I guess the other thing is, when there's another government, what damage is this going to do? Is it what's reversible? What makes sense to spend the money to reverse which things? And like Rachel was just saying, like, all governments, I think, to this day have said RMA, or even councils actually. During some of the council debates, a lot of the councils, local city councils, were saying they weren't happy with the regional councils either. And the RMA needed reform, and regional councils needed reform, and all these things. So obviously things need to change over time, but yeah, there's a difference between sort of sledgehammering and doing it under your own ideology and actually working across and trying to do something that's workable and long-term good for people.
I like that Rachel said, they're not getting rid of the regional council, just the regional councillors. And when we first talked about this, actually we were talking to Sophie here in Dunedin, and I said, have they offered you like a 50% pay rise? Because now if you're taking on the role of like 8 Otago Regional Council councillors, surely that's not what you agreed to do when you came on board as the Mayor of Dunedin, any mayor in any regional area. So I'm assuming there's a whacking great big pay rise coming. You know, they're going to save $1 million on salaries for getting rid of all these councillors, so you pay the mayor another $100K. You're still doing better, government. And also then obviously they're going to need more staff, because if the mayor is now doing this job that all the councillors were doing, then that needs a significant more resource. My gut tells me they won't want to do that, but it'll be interesting to see what they end up deciding for the mayors who are going to end up doing that. And I just want to say one more time, because you've mentioned environment, and Rachel mentioned the environment. I don't think there'd be a single person in New Zealand who wouldn't like to see the most efficient form of resource management, but equally the one that is the safest to people and to the environment, you know, and to business, all of the above. So when they talk about, you know, all these savings and all these cuts, I mean, not to be too dramatic, you know, slashing red tape is what led us to the leaky house situation in New Zealand. Leaky buildings. That was slashing red tape. That was allowing councils to sign off on houses without eaves. And so they started building these Spanish Art Deco houses where there wasn't an eave. The houses just joined at the corner with stucco. And of course, they weren't weather tight. So a change of red tape led to tens, hundreds, maybe even billions, but hundreds of millions of dollars of costs that people had to go. So the devil is in the detail. Slashing cost, making it easier to build, all those things are good, as long as they don't then lead to systemic long-term problems with buildings, with the people, with the environment, and of course the concern from the people watching, I know this, and from us, is that this government will err on the side of making it easy as possible for business, and fuck the people and fuck the environment. Now, one might argue that the other side might go the other way and the happy medium would be somewhere in the middle. But I guess sitting here right now, when they say literally they're going to slash green tape, that fills me with dread about what does that mean for New Zealand's environment. You know, we're trying to make our streams swimmable again, and the government cancelled that. There was a very good chat that came in. I almost thought it would be a good slogan from Ian. Luxon is a leader, putting the lead back into paint, petrol and the pipes. There you go. National 2026, putting the lead back into paint, petrol and pipes. And that kind of does feel like that. It's like the last government's got this desire to make rivers swimmable again. This government goes, yeah, we're going to cancel that. And then they'll do that same thing that, yes, we want rivers to be swimmable again. You know, we want smoking rates to go down. We want all these things to happen, but we're going to get rid of all the legislation that's helping get to that point. And it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
It's exactly the same as this, removing the TTT clause that schools had to follow, right? It's the same thing of like, if it's no longer an obligation and it's no longer a compulsory obligation, people will just opt out and they won't like they weren't on a te tiriti in the school. They'll find ways to not think about it in each of the ways that it should affect things. So yeah, like there are restrictions and there are things that we have to do for a reason. And I think the leaky homes is a great example of why history is really important. I mean,
let's make it easier to build homes.
The thing that I've learned is that, it was built when? I'm out.
Yep, that's exactly the rationale. It's like, let's make it easier for people to build homes. Let's get them built faster and quicker and better. Leaky buildings. Slashing the red tape led to leaking buildings. So this is the thing, right? And the problem with any government, don't care what colour they are, any government, they make the changes that if it then does lead to a massive negative or a massive cost for future generations, they just get to walk away. Some of them with their knighthoods don't get held accountable. The people who ended up paying for those leaky buildings were the councils and the owners of the buildings. Not literally, the taxpayers, not literally the people who said this will be fine. And on some level, the builders who built them, who I suspect probably knew this wasn't the best way to do it, but because all the other builders were doing it and they were doing it more cheaply, they just kind of went, well, these are the regulations. There'd be a section of them that would have done that. I don't want to throw all builders under the bus, but you know what I mean?
Well, you can't expect every builder out there, every treaty to know these things. Like there are labourers who just kind of they just do what they're told, and then there's probably some people that go, that's not going to work.
I guess I'm not talking about the hammer hands, the labourers who are doing the work, but, architects and owners of builders companies and people who've been builders for decades who pay those hammer hands.
Yeah.
There had to be some of them that would have gone, this is not a smart idea, but if I tell these owners what the best idea is, I'm going to add another 100K to the house and they're not going to go with me. So, I mean, I'm still not saying that's okay. It feels a bit unethical to me, but it's also the reality of where we live. It's what businesses do sometimes. They'll do what they've been asked to do, even if they know it's not the best. I think it's a pretty revolting way to operate, but it's also a reality. Let's have a look at some of the super chat. Citizen Gold says 375 days at most until Craig links me to a citation that shows otherwise. Saying last night, remember Craig held up that piece of paper on Friday night that said 340, and not the
very
case.
Confidently too.
Very confidently as well. But I have had that debate with Gold before, and I'm going to stand by Gold because I don't need to have my ear chewed out again. Actually, speaking of that, we will do a Patreon meetup this weekend because it's probably the last chance we get to do it this year, and that's where I got my ear chewed off. So it was at a meetup. So I don't want to have that again. But just announcement to everybody else. This will be our last meetup for the year. It'll be obviously virtual. It'll be on the web. If you are a patron, then you will get an invitation in the next 24 hours. It's normally 11-ish, 10-ish, 11-ish on a Saturday morning. And we'll do the last one for the year this year. If you've never been to a meetup and you want to come along, love to have you. Love to have you. Laura says, Nikki Noboats versus Ruthanasia fight night. Well, it would be the mother of all fights. That's how you.
When I heard this, I have no idea what they're going to debate because Nicola has said that Ruth Richardson is like her idol.
Yeah.
And like she wants to be like her. And I think Ruth Richardson has come out and said that the government aren't doing enough in terms of like the austerity model. So what's the debate going to be? Because if the Taxpayers Union are ripping on Nicola Willis for not doing the right stuff and like fudging the numbers and things like this, but I just don't understand what the debate's going to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit this narrative that the TPU are supposedly going with. I'm kind of confused.
And if it's going to happen, do you know where I bet it happens? I put $5 on where it's going to happen. It'll happen on Bomber's show.
On Bomber's show?
Well, that's what my guess is, because he had that big debate between David Seymour and Iwi last year that got all that coverage. So that's what I'm guessing. Speaking of Nicola Willis, I actually agree here. I don't know what they'll debate, but I'll explain to the whānau why the debate. has been thrown out there next. Because last night, Ems, there's this piece of audio that's going around the internet that I chose not to play last night. And I explained to the whānau and to Jordan Williams when he called me that I've seen this piece of audio in 3 different locations, and I've seen other people release it today. So if other people are releasing it, I think that's evidence in and of itself that the person that Jordan was having a crack at was not the source of it. And we'll explain that all next, and we'll get to play the piece of audio. Laura says the Greens didn't make the RMA. Green tape where? Yeah, well, I guess they're talking about the environmental restrictions. And from Laura, the RMA was Labour's and National's idea. Here is Johnny. The RMA is here to protect the have-nots from the haves. Without it, those with massive resources could impose their will on a city, region, under the cover of personal property rights. It is kind of hilarious, though, how that almost seems to be almost like a tick for David Seymour. He says that so often, but he doesn't seem to want to talk about like Māori property rights, because those are the ones he doesn't seem to want to have a bar of. Because if you applied all of his logic around property to land that has been taken, stolen, or should be returned, that would then be a very interesting conversation to have. Twitter is its name. X is what you call it once you're broken up from it and stopped using it. Yeah, I mostly call it Twitter. And so that was it's one of those examples that shows Elon Musk is the world's dumbest smart man. He literally had a platform that had its own verb to tweet. It had its own verb. Like, it was in the English language to tweet. It was a doing word. And then he got rid of that and changed it to X. And ever since, people have been like, I guess we're still tweeting on this platform that he's calling X. Worst marketing move ever. Finally, Ian says being up to code means built to the lowest standard that are legal. Code should be seen as the worst option that'll pass. Yep, I think that's fair.
Our building standards here are dog shit, man. The rest of the world laughs at us at how bad minimum insulation is, or minimum it's so bad. It just
So when you get people coming to New Zealand from very, very cold countries, from places that have feet and feet and feet of snow, and they're colder in New Zealand than they are in their regions, in Alaska or in Sweden or in these places, because of how poorly our houses are built. So, really in New Zealand, most years, 0 during the day would be the lowest high. You know what I'm saying? There wouldn't be many days in New Zealand that it didn't get above 0 or above, and people come, and that's on a few days a year. People come here from places that are -20 and -40, and they say how cold it is here because of our housing stock. Simple as that. Right, let's have a look at this now, shall we? This is kind of hilarious. Anytime, anywhere. Willis challenges Richardson to a debate. Now, the reason for this is what we talked about last night. The Taxpayers Union, of which now Ruth Richardson is the patron saint, I think, something like that, has come out to have an attack on Nikki No Votes. They're coming out to say you are mismanaging the finances. The Prime Minister said not too long ago that Nicola Willis is the best we'll ever have. The Taxpayers Union, because they're greasy little slime balls, going, we'd love her to be the best they've ever had. But you can't argue the numbers. You can't argue the stats. You can't argue the figures. That this government, whilst pointing back to the last guys about how they had a shopping spree and they spent so much money, have borrowed more than the last lot do. And it's become so obvious that a heap of people on the right are having to say it, because if they don't, they just look like lying idiots. Like, if you don't say it now, you are either a moron or you're so partisan you should be irrelevant to conversations around politics. It's just that obvious. So Nicola Willis has challenged former National Party Finance Minister Ruth Richardson to a debate on the country's books at Parliament. The Taxpayers Union is poised to launch a pressure campaign targeting Willis in an effort to convince her to cut spending and reduce debt. Yep, that's always the way to win friends and influence people, to mock them and make them look like idiots. There's that old saying, remember that old saying, you can catch more flies with vinegar than honey? Oh, hang on. Maybe it's the other way around, but that's what they reckon they're going to do. Heading into National's caucus meeting on Tuesday morning, Willis said it was clear the campaign was being driven by Richardson, who was the chair of the Taxpayers Union. My message for Ruth Richardson is a very clear one. Come and debate me face to face. Come out of the shadows. I will argue toe to toe on the prescription that our government is following. I reject your approach, and instead of lurking in the shadows with secretly funded ads in the paper, she sounds like she's a comrade talking about this when it's the Taxpayers Union. Come and debate me right here in Parliament. I challenge any of these media outlets here to host that debate. I'm ready anytime, anywhere. It does sound like WWE, doesn't it? I will debate her. She needs to come in front up, face to face, put her face to her word. I don't know what quite, I'm not sure quite what that one means. Richardson laughed when RNZ asked her if she would debate Willis. I came to Parliament as a Minister of Finance. She is a Minister of Finance. She has to make the calls. She made no apologies for the pressure campaign. So Ruth Richardson has agreed to debate the country's fiscal position with Nicola Willis, which will be kind of hilarious and much watch. Hopefully that's on like Boxing Day. It'll be a great day after Christmas just to sit back and watch the boxing, the literal boxing on Boxing Day. Yeah. We could even do it for charity. I'm sure they'd want to do it for charity. That seems to be the kind of people they are. We've talked about the campaign. We've talked about what's going on. In fact, the Taxpayers Union has talked about the campaign, and the Taxpayers Union have talked about what's going on and how they're going to pressure Nicola Willis. What hasn't been talked about is exactly how they're going to do it. We talked last night about not we had some audio and we weren't going to release it quite there and then, but others doing it. And Emily's actually referenced it tonight without anybody knowing, when Emily said that she's fudging the numbers. So here is a little ditty for you.
That was an accident, by the way, but I realised once I said it.
Here's a little ditty, as of course the Taxpayers Union wouldn't pay anything for it because, you know, that's what it is. This must be a press release or something. I've never seen this thing before, but I heard the audio. Nicola Willis fudget growth budget. They're very keen to start talking about how Nicola Willis is fudging the numbers. Where the fuck is the play on this thing? It's all white.
There's a play button right at the top.
At the top, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because someone doesn't know how to do a UI.
So this is the ditty that I was talking about last night, and as you can see, other people are releasing it. Lots of people have it. And this is going to be a part of the Taxpayers Union attack. And this is the thing they've been so pissy about other people knowing. Like, it's basically a little angle they've come up with, a coining of a phrase that they've used before about fudging the numbers. Have a listen, Whānau.
Nicola Willis keeps fudging the numbers with debt she won't discuss. Our economy is shrinking and government spending is up while our wallet can't keep up. Taste her sugary fudge at Nicola's Fudge. Nicola Willis keeps fudging the numbers with debt.
So that's it. That's the thing that the Taxpayers Union desperately wanted no one to hear.
Nicola Willis keeps fudging the numbers with debt she won't discuss.
Debt she won't discuss. Economy is shrinking. Government spending is up. So, you know, it's a pretty when it comes to messaging, it's pretty on point. And this is one of the reasons me and Chewy got so pissy last night. We've been saying this since before the last election. And we don't trust the Taxpayers Union. They are not honest actors. And as I said last night, my opinion is that it's the people who sign the checks for the Taxpayers Union that want to see change more so than the Taxpayers Union. That's just my opinion. It's going to be fun to watch the right eat itself. And you are going to have two factions. You're going to have the Hootens and the Taxpayers Union and probably big business on one side, and you're going to have Luxon and Willis and Auckland business on the other side, just going at each other. And what's become evident now, and I think Bomber wrote about this today, we may have Bomber on tomorrow night to talk about, is what the Taxpayers Union has done is they're now fully in the ACT corner. So Taxpayers Union used to be very much aligned with National. What they're now doing is they've become the voice piece of the ACT party and what they want achieved. So we can all laugh at them telling the truth this one time about Nicola Willis, government spending going up, debt that she won't talk about, all true. But the underlying thing is the reason they're doing it, in my opinion, and Bomber's written about this, as I said, is because they are now taking on, they are aligning themselves much more closely with ACT than National. So they want to put pressure on to help get more ACT-style policies through than National. So it's going to be, as I said, I think everyone's going to have a bit of a laugh when they see Nicola Willis embarrassed, but just remember what's behind it. You know, sometimes it's like, like when the bad person in charge gets taken out, you're not aware that there's a badder person behind them to take over. So just be aware. Just be aware. What are your thoughts, Ems?
Well, my question is, who are they going to replace Nicola Willis with? And then I just realised as I thought of that question, the Associate Finance Minister is who? And that is even more scarier. Do you want, like you just said, do you want an incompetent Minister of Finance, or would you like an evil Minister of Finance?
It's always one of those things, isn't you? You know, what is it? Nature abhors a vacuum. So when you take one person out, someone has to fill that space. Doesn't have to be equal to. It's a bit like we often talk about, I think it was an example that Chewy came up with, but, you know, I felt a bit this way when we were just talking to Rachel as well, that the government's doing something, right? And they can stand up and say, we're doing something for the RMA, we're doing something. Doesn't mean they're doing something good. You know, if someone's drowning and you throw them a bit of masonry brick, you've done something, but you're actually you're actually going to drown them more quickly, but you've done something. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested as to where to from here. And like I said last night, the actual little ditty, it doesn't really add anything to the conversation because it's about attacking Nicola Willis. It's about, you know, a right-wing psyop that wants to see more austerity, more cuts, less spending. But in this instance, what they're doing is they're being accurate. Government spending's up. There's debt that they won't talk about. This is a sugar hit that they are, I mean, the government constantly, Luxon and Willis are constantly talking about, we don't just want a sugar hit like the last guys, which is exactly what they're doing.
Lolly scramble.
And so they're
I know all of
fudging.
their talking points.
They're fudging it. So there you go. I'm sorry to be so underwhelmingly disappointing, Whānau, but that's the big secret. And as I said last night, lots of people have it. As you just saw there, that's nothing to do with us. Other people have got it. And so there it is. That is what Jordan Williams said to me yesterday. What do I have to do for you not to play that tonight? He also told me it wasn't theirs. So I'm surprised as to if it wasn't theirs, why he'd want me to stop playing it. It was because it is theirs. So we'll see. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch from the sidelines. But, you know, it's fun to watch two bullies beat each other up. But then once one of them finally falls, you've still got a bully to deal with. That's not fun. Yeah. Should we do some super chats? There's a couple in there.
Yeah.
Peter, AI slop detected. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, 100%. There's no way they paid someone to do that.
Completely. Of course they didn't. Over Red Rover, I propose building a factory with leaky sewers in Epsom. There is. Well, there's lots of shit in that area, so there's plenty of sewerage needed. Lots of shit spoken.
Good question.
And talked about.
Would the RMA changes stop someone from doing that?
Not sure. Pete says, I strongly suspect this debate will be nothing more than a choreographed campaign event rather than a genuine argument. I don't know about that. Jordan, I have to be careful here because they are quite litigious, right? But I've heard from several sources that Jordan Williams hates Nicola Willis with a passion. like on a personal level. And obviously the Taxpayers Union is not happy with what's going on. Whatever their overlords are wanting them to do means that if they just went and had a nicey-nicey, that wouldn't serve the purpose of whatever it is that they're trying to get out of rolling Nicola Willis or embarrassing Nicola Willis. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they are serious about causing her some trouble, it won't be just a promo reel. If they are just like playing games, then maybe I guess we'll have to wait and see. And Rajan beautifully recalls a South Park episode, which everyone should watch every single election cycle. Nicola versus Ruth is giant douche versus turd sandwich.
Even I know that one.
Yeah.
I don't
If you haven't, I'm sure everyone's seen it, but if you haven't seen it, South Park episode where they have to vote for a new mascot, and the boys get involved and they gerrymander it so that the only two they can pick from is either a giant douche or a turd sandwich. And it was just before probably maybe the Clinton-Trump election first time round, not sure. But basically, I think it's Kyle always who does the monologues, and that at the end of it goes something like, in every election, it's always between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. So that was the whole storyline. It's very, very funny. They are geniuses, those guys. Oh, I'm sure. Have you been watching them this season, Ems? And Trump's teeny tiny penis?
I've been watching the Pod Save America guys do a breakdown every other week. That's the only way I can consume it, and honestly, it's sometimes worth it. But the storyline they have is just genius. Like this whole thing with Satan being pregnant and basically Trump's wife, and it like did taking pot shots at everyone. And I love that Cartman is basically. Which I don't know if they've carried on with this since the Kirk incident, but he's sort of the debate bro and copies Charlie Kirk's quirks when he was debating and things. So I find it very entertaining.
I was just looking. Look at us on Twitter right now. What's happening here? What's going on?
Wait, do you not have the vertical view?
I don't have it up. I don't have it open.
Oh, I have it open. It's really annoying.
I've just closed it. You can close it. Underneath it says hide vertical.
Yeah, I was going to see if you could change the layout of the vertical, but it looks like you... Oh, cancel. Don't do that. Don't break it. Because when you put a screen up, we go really, really tiny at the bottom. So we have to have a play afterwards.
It's weird that. Yeah, there'll be one. I'm sure that they've got it sorted out. The reason I was bringing up Twitter was I thought, just while we're kind of between stories, I might just talk to this. So the Manukau Urban Māori Authority, there's several Māori urban authorities around the country, and there's one in Manukau. This is Waipareta Trust is one of them. This is one in Manukau. There are a lot of right-wing troglodytes, trolls, and not particularly nice people who are pushing a story out at the moment about accusations of bullying going on at Muma, and the connection is Willie Jackson's mother started Muma, and she was the CEO, and then Willie Jackson was the CEO, and now Willie's wife is the CEO, which, asking for trouble, that kind of line of things. But I guess if it is a appointed or it's a voted position, I don't know, they get to vote whoever they want. And there's accusations flying around at the moment that Willie has been involved with censoring, I guess. Like there's an email out there by Tova O'Brien that was sent to Muma that said, what would like these questions answered, we'd like to go to press at 2 p.m. That was like a month ago, and that's been released. And so people are saying, oh, look at obviously the Labour Party has got on and they're protecting their people because the media won't talk about this. So I keep an eye on these things because it could be a story. No one ever says that your side is always doing the right things or they're good or whatever, or the other side is always bad. And so I put a tweet out today going, look, I'm just going to have a look at this and see what I can find. And I messaged a few people within mainstream media to see if they wanted to explain a few things for me. And I heard back from a few people within Parliament. And it seems that at the moment, and this is where we've got to with this, and this is all we're going to talk about with it, is that, and I put this on the Twitter feed and also on my Blue Sky, is that lots of people know about the story. I think Matt McCartan is one of the people who is pushing the narrative of the story at the moment. He's going on the platform and other places talking about it. And my understanding is, and I'm taking all of this with a grain of salt, right? Don't quote me and say, this is the truth, this is what I've been told, so this is what we're saying at the moment. We're being told that, ... That the media and within the political world, they are aware of the accusations, and they have approached people who are said to be in it, both from the sort of accusing side and both from the accused side, and asking them to provide evidence of their accusations. So, for example, I don't know whether it is actually Matt McCartan, but people on the side that are making the accusations, please provide us some evidence so we can run the story. And no evidence has been forthcoming. And the difference, this is the thing that'll blow conspiracy theorists' minds, the difference between mainstream media and the blogosphere is typically the mainstream media will do their due diligence because they do not want to end up in court, and they in general don't want to get things wrong. And so accusations are accusations. Evidence is what's needed to put it into a story to say, we now believe this is happening. So my understanding, if any of you guys know about this Mumar thing that's going around at the moment, is that it's not being ignored. It's being investigated. And the people investigating it within media, within government, well, probably not government, parliament's probably a better way to say it, not the government, within the parliamentary building, have asked those allegedly involved for evidence, and they haven't gotten it yet. And that's it. Will they have evidence tomorrow? Maybe. Will they have evidence next week? Maybe. But at the moment, today, as where we sit, the reason that it's not being run, my understanding, actually, I can't say that for all media, don't get me wrong, but the people I spoke to who work in some quite big media outlets, the reason that they won't run it is they don't have any evidence to say whether the accusations are true. And if you run it without evidence, that can end up as defamation. This is what the people seem to not be able to realize. And I don't know what's going on, so I'm not suggesting it's one way or the other. I'm just expanding on the story that's floating around the internet and what's being said about it. Because, of course, that right-wing trollosphere is obviously, they're all boots in. They're all boots in against Mumar because it's the Māori urban, the Manukau Urban Māori Authority. And they're all in because it's Willie Jackson and that. And we have evidence that sometimes politicians make bad decisions. But as of today, no evidence has been provided to the media outlets that have asked for it to run the story. It's as simple as that. So it's not that won't be run next week or next month or early next year, but as of today, that's the story. That's it. Nothing to see here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you know what's going to happen. That's not going to satisfy. You know, it's that old saying, for those who believe, no proof is needed. For those who don't, no proof is enough. So for those who believe that to be true, what I've just said won't change one iota of what they believe to be true, because they want to believe the worst. And look, I think if anything else, we have been proven to call balls and strikes, whether it was what we did on Ingrid Leary last week, or whether it was what we've been doing on Te Pāti Māori over the last month and what's happening around Tāku Te Wheres and Maria Mino Kapakingi. We won't shy away from an awkward or bad story that technically might hit our side than the others. But at the moment, there's nothing to see here. Ian's right, so no story. I think there'd be one addendum, so no story yet. Because like I said, all I've been told is we haven't seen any evidence yet. Maybe they never will, and it will never be a story. Maybe they will in a week's time, and then we'll address that then. There you go. That satisfies no one, Emily. No one whatsoever that satisfies. But listening to McCartan talking, you can hear he's making some quite specific accusations. So it should be very easy to provide evidence, should that be the case. I also should probably say as well, I take what the media contacts that I've got with a grain of salt as well. I'm not taking them as gospel. This is just what I've been told. So what I've passed on to you is what I've been told. That's all I'm saying. Because I don't then want to be pulled into anything that I was saying trust this area, not this area. This is just what I know as of today, which is we need more evidence to run anything. Done. Okay. Hey, I think we'll do something that we haven't advertised, and that's Chippy on NZ Herald this morning, because I saw this clip going around. sorry to say this again, but the right-wing trollosphere today.
I like that. It's my new favourite word.
Really? Trollosphere?
Trollosphere.
Okay.
Trollosphere.
I just made that up tonight. Someone Google that, see if that exists anywhere, and if it doesn't, register it for me. Trollosphere. I saw this in the right-wing trollosphere today, this interview, and I'll show you the clip that is being shown by some in the right. And their basically point is they get to the end of it because it's actually quite compelling what Chippy says. Like, he's laying out the evidence for him not knowing. I know it's hard to prove a negative, but he's laying out what it is. And at the end of it, the right-wing trollosphere that is talking about this, they basically go, oh, as if, and that's it. So, because it's actually, I think it's quite a good response from Chippy, and they've cut this, and they've put it out to the public, and their comeback at the end of it is, yeah, I don't believe that. For anyone who believes, no proof is needed. For anyone who doesn't, no proof is enough. Right? It's a really good way to think about these debates when we have them. So he's asked about the Jevon McSkimming situation. It's only 2 minutes. We'll just have a look at it. We'll let it play through. And he explains about not just that he doesn't recall the conversation, but other people that were in the car don't recall the conversation. So there's a couple of people that are saying that were there. And then the right-wing trollosphere goes, oh, as if. That's their comeback to this. But let's have a listen to what Chippy had to say.
Let's just start by seeing if we can cover off this Jevon McSkimming timeline. He says, Andrew Costa says that he told you about it earlier than you said you recollect, but he was reasonably specific about it. In the back of a Crown car, in a trip around the South Island. That doesn't ring any bells at all?
Well, I think there's clear details that are wrong there. That we weren't in a Crown car, we were in a police car, and there were other people in the car with us. I checked with my press secretary who was in the car with me just to see if there was anything that I had forgotten. She also has no recollection of that conversation ever taking place. Had that conversation taken place, I don't think Jevon McSkimming ever would have progressed as far and as fast as he did in being promoted to the statutory Deputy Commissioner of Police. All that.
It's funny, I also think if you're ever in this kind of position of power, what you'd say to someone is, can you email this to me? I mean, I spoke to people on Friday night who wanted to ask me questions or who wanted to give me an idea. And on Friday night, I went, just email me. It's so much easier if I have it in writing, then I can respond to it. So, the police minister for the opposition or for the government at the time, you kind of giving him a casual chat. I'm not saying they did this, but surely if you are in that position, you'd say to the person, yeah, can you put this in writing? Because I don't want to get to our destination and then forget a third of what you've just said. So put it in writing and bring it to me. I'm not saying that happened, but I mean, I guess Andrew Costa said in that interview, one thing he learned was to never do anything casually from now on. But yeah, if you were in a conversation as a leader and it was a casual chat, surely you'd also go, yeah, can you email that to my PA because I want the details in front of me so I can reference it. This is not a defense, by the way, of Chippy. This is me just thinking out loud going, if you were ever in that situation, that would be the smart thing to do, to have it sent to you in writing.
There's still an obligation on Andrew Costa to make sure it's being declared in the appointment process as well, and clearly he didn't do that. So I think there's multiple failings here. I've spent quite a lot of time over the weekend thinking about whether there was information that I had missed the significance of, and I'm adamant that conversation never happened.
So he's lying?
Well, he clearly has a different recollection of what he told people and when. It's not just me that he has a different recollection of that with. Mark Mitchell doesn't agree with him. The Deputy Public Service Commissioner doesn't agree with him. The Independent Police Conduct Authority doesn't agree with him.
It's a pretty good defence that Chippy's mounting here. You know, this is like if you were trying to defend yourself, it's a pretty good defense listing off all these groups and people who also disagree with the one.
The Deputy Public Service Commissioner doesn't agree with them. The Independent Police Conduct Authority doesn't agree with them.
So what is his strategy then? Is he just trying to share around some blame on his way out the door, or what?
I was disappointed in his interview over the weekend. I accepted at face value what I thought was a sincere resignation and acceptance of responsibility last week, and I thought it was good that he had done that. He then seemed to undo all of that in his interview on Sunday, which I thought was really disappointing.
Do you believe Mark Mitchell when he says, no, I didn't get told about it, when Andrew Costa says he told me about it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
There you go. As I said, we don't know what happened. Andrew Costa, when he was asked by Jack Tim, have you got evidence for this? He went, no. So we can't know what happened. But if someone was going to mount a defence, that was a pretty good defence from Chippy. And a bunch of the right-wing trollosphere's response right now was, you're right. Like as if the press secretary wouldn't just agree with him. Whereas it's like, you know, he's lined up a few ducks there to kind of go, nah, this is what it's at. Any thoughts, Ems?
I'm confused. I will be honest, I liked Costa. I liked him. He had some great social views. I think he was a great appointment in his new job that he was in. And this whole thing has made me question all of that. And politicians will be politicians. And if it wasn't in writing, it's an easy way to get out of it. And it's easy to, if one person's saying, I don't recall that because it would fuck up my career. I don't recall that because it was also fuck up my career. Then it aligns, right? That's two politicians aligning that they didn't know something that would be career ending.
Yeah. And
a guy who's fronting and saying, yes, I knew about this. I didn't do the right thing and I fucked up. It's hard to know because you never know what someone's intentions are, and you never know what someone is really thinking and what's bullshitting the rest of us. But I just
and he can't be like he can't fall any further from grace. So why is so that's a valid question. Why would he be doing this? It's not like all of a sudden he's going to convince people that Mark Mitchell had a place. Oh, okay, all is forgiven, Andrew Costa. You're okay. Come back to work then. So what is his rationale for lying? I see that as well. You know, it's like, that's why I'm like, we can never know. We weren't there. It's a pretty good defense, but equally, what's the purpose? He's not going to be like, you know, down at the restaurant in his local town the next day and they're going to be, oh, thumbs up because you were right. This there's shame on him and he's ruined his career and this is not going to turn it around. So why is he saying these things? There doesn't seem to be a reason that will be a positive result for him for saying these things, because not even taking some of the blame off him. So, but yeah, Chewy said a similar thing about Costa during the interview. He started the interview really strong by basically saying, I was to blame. I was in charge. Even if I didn't know, I was still ultimately responsible for it, which I thought was a great way for any leader to speak. Luxon could learn a thing or two. But then Chewy said the longer the interview went on, the less he thought that he was a decent leader. So almost a bit like you're saying, you liked him and did it. It was like Chewy liked him at the start and then got kind of more and more wary of him the more he spoke during that interview.
And that kind of also, there's history of that where men in power will come across as these great men and there are things that come out that change that entirely. Like there is a history of that as well. So that is plausible that this is someone who did know, was covering their tracks, and is now trying to redeem themselves. Like that is also a very plausible possibility as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess
he's coming from an organization which has been found to have systemic issues and a bit of a boys' club attitude. So yeah. It's
an interesting perspective as to where to from here, but I don't know. I know. All right. Anyway, let's have a look at. This is probably going to be our last story for tonight, I think. And I don't know if TVNZ has done this on purpose, only because I know I do. It's an interesting thumbnail, don't you think? They've given him a bit of a.
What is?
Do you know what I mean? It's a bit deer stuck in the headlights. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe the juniors making thumbnails for them tonight, and they got that. That was the look it got. It's going to be a week of this. I don't know if we'll do it every night, but TVNZ's latest polling with Verian has come out yesterday.
Bright yellow suit.
We talked a bit to it. You're not a fan. I think the yellow shirt doesn't quite work.
It's a bold choice.
She looks like she
And
should
it's
be on the
great.
set of Willy Wonka. Don't you think that would be good? On
Great
the set of Willy
choice.
Wonka?
Yellow blazer, yellow shirt, possibly a yellow tie, but on the blue looks great. Here you go. That's my 2 cents. Carry on.
I don't think I can see a tie. All right. So this is the next round of polling, and this is talking more to leadership and the number or the percentage of New Zealanders that want to see Luxon stay or go. And I guess if you've got kind of 40% of the vote, you would hope that 40% of people would want you to be Prime Minister. You know, if you've got 40% of the vote, but 60% of people want you to be Prime Minister, that's pretty good. If you've got 40, when I say got, I mean the party, got 40% of the vote and 20% want you to be Prime Minister, that would be bad. So let's have a look as to what some of these new results were.
To more from our latest poll now, just over a third of voters think Christopher Luxon should remain leader of the National Party. About the same number say they want someone else. And exclusive results from the One News Verian poll show almost half of all voters back Chris Hipkins as Labor leader. Here's political editor Mikey Sherman.
As leaders of the country's 2 major parties, their fortunes lie in the hands of voters.
Polls, Mikey.
A pretty good poll for you guys, though.
Yeah, it's better, isn't it?
But a few bad polls or underperformance.
Action.
And the chatter begins. National knows it well.
People can speculate all they like, but we know where we're going and who we support. There's been speculation since we came in. There's always speculation.
Is there?
I'm not going to go into that. Thanks.
The party's been battling rumours.
Yeah, that's interesting, eh? Been speculation since we came in. That might have been the wrong thing to say out loud. So since day one, there's been speculation of rolling Luxon since we came in. Really? I don't know if that's particularly the smartest thing to say.
Over the last few months.
Yeah.
How safe is your leadership?
Well, we're very focused on what we're doing, which is getting on with the job and getting things done, and we're going to have an election next year.
Not quite answering the question, Prime Minister. How
It's
safe
very
is your
safe.
leadership?
Very safe.
Chris Bishop.
Why did they do that? Because he answered the question. He said very safe. But the first thing he said was not. Why didn't he just answer the question? Why didn't he just say very safe? Why did he have to go focus? And then she asked it again, making him look like a goose, and he went, "It's very safe." Why didn't he just do that first time? I don't get it. Look, it's almost like someone who is a terrible communicator doesn't know quite what they're doing because they feel like they always have to maybe have their defences up. But like, it was a pretty simple question. How safe is your leadership? Yeah, it's fine. Next. It's just weird.
I love it. She just went, you didn't answer the question. I need more of that. I want more journalists to just push back immediately and say, you didn't answer it again. Yeah. I much prefer that kind of journalism than the let you just speak and then I'll ask the question again. Just interrupt them.
Yep. There we go.
Prime Minister, how safe is your leadership?
Very safe.
Chris Bishop curiously popping up on 2% as preferred Prime Minister.
And what?
Chris Bishop,
It's
are
like he's
you
dumbfounded.
keen on the leadership?
Keen on getting RMA.
Say again?
It's like he's dumbfounded by these questions coming to him. Like, he's like, why are you asking me these questions? He should fucking know why he's getting asked these questions because it's been happening. He's being rolled by the media for months now. Like, the calls are getting more and more and more, and this whole idea of like, what? Where is this coming? What do you mean? This question is coming from no. Like, he should have his response ready for these questions.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like when he said yesterday that he didn't watch the Andrew Costa interview. I call bullshit, but even if you didn't watch it, do you think that telling the public that you're that disengaged from a story that involves your Minister of Police and is probably the biggest political news story in the country certainly of that day, if not kind of this week, that you should be telling the public, I don't give a fuck about that. It just some of the decisions they make. I don't quite get it at all.
You keen on the leadership?
keen on getting RMA reform done today, which is what I'm about to go and do.
Have you been running the numbers behind the scenes?
I've been working on the RMA.
Can Christopher
It's been my
Luxon
life
trust
for the
you?
last couple of years, so I'm pretty keen to get it away today, and in about 2 or 3 hours you'll see.
There's been a lot of chat about you,
all
though.
the things we've been working on.
Can Christopher Luxon trust you?
I think Christopher Luxon will be wondering which barbecues he's going to get invited to this summer.
Just 27. How good is that?
When asked who was best to lead National, 35% said Christopher Luxon, but a total of 30% felt another MP would be better.
I think that's pretty good. I mean, like, just for where the party's at about 36, 37%. I don't think that's too much to worry about, you know. I think for Luxon and for Labor, look, the poll result yesterday, he's not going anywhere now. They're not going to roll Luxon over summer. He's solid. He's solid. If there was, and I know that everyone's talking about, oh, there never was a challenge last week. If there was a bit of a challenge last week, some are now saying the backbenchers were coalescing around Bishop. They wanted to try and get Bishop into a position. Whether that's true or not, I don't think Luxon's going anywhere. I don't think he'll be rolled over Christmas, and I think it's highly unlikely that things will be so bad to roll him between, say, February and October. Yeah, so my gut is that Luxon will see it out to the election, although I have been wrong a lot when it comes to this kind of thought. But yeah, that was a solid poll for them. It probably sends them into the holiday period with their tail up, is that the saying? And then and then go from there. Anything to say? Should we keep going?
Bishop has risen.
Yeah, I'm not
Those
sure.
numbers are a lot higher than what I've seen before. But this is a different poll, though. To be fair, that was a stuff poll.
There was one yesterday about preferred prime minister, and it had Bishop at 2%. But this is the leader of the National Party, which is slightly different.
Yeah. I do. Actually, there was one was it Auckland Business did one, and it was like crazy tiny numbers for everyone. It was this huge gap for preferred. So, he's rising.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Chris Bishop, the leading candidate, on 13%. The rest didn't know or wouldn't say.
I'm 100% backing all of the leaders.
How many leaders are there?
Oh, no, Chris, of course.
Which Chris?
Chris Luxon.
Chris, I thought you were going to say
PM.
Chris Bishop.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
No.
Chris Hipkins, how safe is your leadership?
Very.
Chris Hipkins.
I mean,
How hard is that?
I mean, not to say this is what we want to hear. I mean, very safe. No question in the middle would have to be re-answered. You know, that's how you do it.
Is the standout option as Labor leader. 45% say he's best for the job. His next closest rival is Kieran McAnulty with 12%.
And they haven't said at any stage this is amongst Labor voters. They didn't say the last one, it's amongst national voters. So one has to assume that this is a general population polling, and that, you know, at 36% in the polls and 45% want him think he's the best leader. That's actually probably that's actually careful to think about that. That doesn't mean who I want to be leader. If people are being honest, it's who do I think would be best? Because maybe who you want to lead might not be who's best to lead. So, yeah. Pretty close to 1 in 2 people think Chris Hipkins is the best to lead Labor, and 1 in 3 think Luxon is the best to lead National. It's not terrible. It's not terrible.
But around a third of people didn't know or wouldn't say.
It's worthy of celebration indeed. I'm keen to play my part, but I've never wanted to be leader, and that's not going to change.
We've got a fantastic leader in Chris Hipkins, and we're certainly not in the market for a new one.
But as always, a lot can change in politics, including when it comes to the polls.
No, Maya Mikey, right, now that we've seen the leadership numbers, can the two leaders take confidence from them?
Well, look, it's not surprising that Chris Bishop and Kieran McAnulty are the two frontrunners in behind the National and Labor leaders, but they are still a way behind whereby they don't pose any imminent threat. Now, for Christopher Luxon on 35%, that's not a resounding result. It could have been better, but on 13%, Chris Bishop is still quite a way behind. Of course, keep an eye out for Erica Stanford on 9%. But look, coupled with National's party result and the overall...
It's interesting she would say that, because if you purely think about the numbers, you don't have to keep an eye on Erica Stanford at 9%. Is that more of a commentary from Mikey Sherman around the buzz of Dunedin? Like there's a real, Wellington, there's a real Wellington buzz. Because, I mean, I picked Erica to be the next leader sort of earlier in the year. I've moved away from that. Bishop's obviously the one who's now the more than likely. But that's weird. That's a weird thing to say. Why do we need to keep an eye on Erica Stanford unless there's some back room kind of scuttlebutt going on about, things being said behind the scenes maybe? I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Strong coalition results in our poll yesterday, you could say that Christopher Luxon is safe for a good time yet. Now, as for Chris Hipkins, his result is a lot more solid on 45%. And unlike Chris Bishop, Kieran McAnulty today was emphatic in ruling out any leadership desires, so Hipkins can also breathe easy.
Tēnā koe, thanks.
It is interesting as well that Kieran would be so adamant he doesn't want to be. I think we heard Chloe say that, similar things. I've got no interest. I don't want to be. And obviously she is. I think if I had to put $10 on it right now, my $10 would be obviously the two Chris's, Luxon and Hipkins will be the leaders at the next election. And if nothing happens over summer, then I'd put a 20 on it, more than 10. If we come back next year and they still are there and there's no rumours of being rolled, then it'd be even a stronger case. But yeah, anyway, so that's what the latest Verian polling was showing on One Museum. Got any thoughts?
A lot of people also pointed out the weird head pat at the end of that story before Mikey did a commentary. Just a weird thing. He's a weird guy.
I think I think that was him trying to be like, relatable, making a bit of a joke about the other man in the room with the bald head that he was talking to. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like, okay, so people had a real issue with John Key and his ponytail. Is it the same thing? Touching hair, touching ponytail, touching heads? I don't know. I watched Keanu Reeves, how he handles fans. Have you ever seen imagery around that? Like Keanu Reeves has this thing where, like, obviously girls think he's hot and attracted to him, and I mean, he's no Kieran McAnulty, but and like, so when you see photos taken with of Kieran with female, fans, he doesn't touch them. You can see often the hands are around the back, but there's this much of a gap between his hand and the person's waist. Doesn't touch them. It's a really interesting perspective. I'm not saying that this is like weird and sexual. I mean, it might be. Don't think so. But yeah, it's interesting how people in the public eye handle that sort of physical touch thing. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Don't really know why, but there you go.
I feel like I just got a pot shot about Potty McAnulty. Thanks.
Oh, there you go. Easy. Over Red Rover says Chris and Chris and Chris is like Helen and Jenny. Because there was lots of Helens and lots of Jennies. Is that right? When Clark was around in in Shipley?
Maybe. Don't know.
Maybe. I'm with you on the maybe. I'm not 100% sure. Same. I was just...
Yeah, Pat, you were just a little kid.
I was just a baby. Yeah. I was a twinkle in my father's eye still. Yeah, that's about it. Anything else you want? Let me just check, because I did have a lot of things and I was like, are we going to get through all this? Is there anything else you want to put out there, Ems?
No, I've just had a busy, so I haven't been paying attention to the news as much as usual.
Did you have
American politics, which is always good fun.
Did you have fun over the weekend?
I did. It was great.
Yeah.
I think my husband very much enjoyed being in the space that I quite often operate within, and he had plenty of positive things to say about the people in the room, which is great. He's he got the vibe that was Friday night. Very fired up candidates about what's going on.
Yeah,
and he's not usually one for the rallying and the campaigning type stuff. He finds it a little bit cheesy, but being in the room, he was like, you know what? That was cool. It was cool to see two people who are smart, know what they're talking about, and they're very excited about a better future. And yeah, it was cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Rochelle also mentions, see the school numbers today from Tanya. Erica is getting a cake. I think I saw 1767, something like that. I think it was 69% of schools. So, there's a good question. Media for Mr. Seymour. It's fewer than 200, mostly small schools. What do you say now that it's nearly 70% of schools? Any thoughts? Also, I thought it's probably a good time to mention this weekend. The next edition of The Collective is going to be on. It's the last one for the year, Sunday the 14th, I believe, is at 7 o'clock? Yep, 7 o'clock. I'm not sure if everyone's going to be on or not because, timetables, crazy time of year. But The Collective is back this weekend. And whilst you do visit our website, bhn.nz, remember you can always go and see a bunch of these people by going to the Friends of BHN. Look, there's Bree, there's Jordan, there's Bomber, there's Paul, with link trees or links to one or all of where they are. Some of the other podcasts that have been made through this sort of company, and other podcasts have been made for other people as well, friends of. And remember, the shop is accessible through there as well. It's all there. Now, there are a few people who have ordered in the last week or so. If you're watching right now and you haven't received merch, last week turned to poo pretty quickly, just because of planning for a Christmas party for 25 people and planning for an event for 80 people or whatever it was. And I'm going to, if there's anything outstanding as of right now, I'm going to get to the post shop tomorrow and get it on couriers. So if you're still waiting and you haven't heard from us, my apologies. It's a couple of days later than it should have been, but it will be on the post tomorrow and you will get a notification. All right. And I still have to put together the Friday night actual, what do we call it? Friday night, the campaign meeting, the public meeting we'll call it.
Public meeting, yes.
Public meeting, and that's about it. Hey, Ems, thanks for jumping in tonight. Are you guys here? This is your last one this Friday, is it right?
Last Friday show of the year, correct? And then I think we're all doing a happy family gathering on the last Thursday, is it?
Well, let's just call it a family gathering. Let's drop the happy because, who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We'll wait and see.
I would hope it's happy.
Maybe we'll all be teary because it'll be the last one of the year. Maybe it'll be sad.
That's true.
I mean, how hard it will be to have my evenings back for a few weeks. Maybe I'll be teary about it. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I don't want to know. Over Red Rover, I didn't want to be leader, but no one else would stand. Kieran McAnulty. Yep, there you go. That could be a way that he gets into the leadership. So. Okay, team. I think we're done. That's us done and or dusted. And I think we're going to go off to our own worlds now and do our own things. I'm assuming Chewy's going to be here tomorrow night, so tune in for that. Remember, next week we've got Chippy on Tuesday. It's Chewy and Chippy Tuesday. There's a few other fan faves. You can always email me with your fan faves, mail@bhn.nz. And I've got a couple of other people lined up. Probably going to have a visit from Bomber some stage this week as well because we haven't seen him for a while. And I think he's probably got some things to say about the Taxpayers Union and what's going on there as well. So, yeah, we shall see. We shall see you at least tomorrow.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have their hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the
Just had a quick super chat to come in. What will we do without you? Well, you won't be without us, technically, because through that summer period we'll have best ofs. And look, if anything pops off and there's any really big news, I mean, I will probably jump back on and jump in live. So make sure you're subscribed to all of our channels. And if you have a location like YouTube that you can be notified as well. And if anything does happen during that break, we probably will jump on and have a bit of a chat. Big things, obviously. Anything else before we wrap up, Ems? Anything you want to mention?
I will also be live on Twitch throughout the Christmas New Year period for some of the days. And I'm also thinking I might jump on now. So if you want some games to end the evening, come and see me.
Pretty awesome gaming? Is that what you go with?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Over on Twitch.
Pretty awesome gaming over on Twitch. All right, dudes. All the best. We'll catch you tomorrow night. Have a good one. Be safe. Hooroo.
Bye.